Monday, March 17th is going to be St. Patrick's Day, and I know almost nothing about the holiday except that I'm wearing green and it's St. Patrick's Day season, so I thought I'd celebrate by reading some Irish books. That's not quite the motivation. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Karen. If you're new here, welcome to Runwright Reads. We're trying to just have more fun with our books, so that's one of the inspirations for this video. I also got this package from Penguin Random House, which the book is to be released on March 25th. And I think it is a book that I asked them for from an Irish writer. Since it is St. Patrick's Day season, I thought, why not learn some things? This is not it. Oh, this is it. It's here. It's here. It's Twist by Colum McCann. So my daughter is 5 years old. She's in kindergarten. The past couple of years in pre-K and 3K, they celebrated St. Patrick's Day, and it's not something we've ever done at home. But now I find myself buying green things to celebrate. My daughter was on spring break a few days ago, and we went shopping, and in the store, she told me that she thought this green dress would be perfect for me to wear on St. Patrick's Day. I haven't worn it out yet, which is why the tags are still attached, but I like it. Kelly green is one of my favorite colors, and so yes, I decided to build an entire reading project around an outfit. That's just what we do over here. I've been doing this style challenge, or I was doing the style challenge on Instagram. I fell off because when it got so cold, I just stopped wearing anything different. I just wear my hoodie and my sweats every single day, which that's just how we roll sometimes. But I feel like I'm getting back into it, and getting a new book and a new outfit, I feel like I'm already winning. So these are the three books that I'm thinking about picking up. Twist, obviously, by Colum McCann. This is his new work. He's the author of A Paragon. He's the author of A Paragon, which I read a couple of years ago and really enjoyed. I also have this big list of classics and backlist books that I want to get to at some point. So this is one that I have wanted to read for a while. This is A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. And so, yeah, I already have two books. Now, to round this off, because St. Patrick's Day is upon us and I have other reading projects. So to balance off two mid-sized novels, I'm also going to find something really short. Claire Keegan is the author of Small Things Like These, which I read a couple of years ago and also really found intensely profound. It's a novella, but I felt like the concepts that she explored there could have been fleshed out into a tome-length novel. Foster is also really short, so I'm going to request that from the library. And so I have two physical books and an e-copy. So we're going to read these three books over the next 3 days, and I'll tell you what I learned about Irish culture and whether or not I'm celebrating St. Patrick's Day. So I started reading A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, and I'm at page 37, and so far I'm liking it. It's very present time. So we're reading about a teenage Stephen Daedalus, and you could make your links to Greek mythology if you must, but I haven't read that Greek mythology yet. So I don't want to look it up because I don't want to see how I don't want to see the literary connections yet. I want to experience this on its own. But in any case, we're reading about this teenage boy who is away at boarding school, and he's not having a great time. He's missing his family, and he is counting down the days until the next break when he can go home. And it's very him recording. It's not stream of consciousness. It's almost like he is writing the script for a vlog, because he's telling us what is happening. He's telling us what he's thinking in a very present time way. So we see him like in his dorm room, and the prefect, who would be some kind of a class monitor, but someone from an upper class, comes to check on him, and he's recording how the prefect is like testing his temperature to confirm whether or not he really is sick when he says he is, and how he talks to him and tells him to go to the infirmary, which when I was going to high school we called the sick bay. But to go to the nurse, but more of a residential kind of situation. And when the other boys are trying to jeer him or mock him, what they say and how he responds, and what they say and how he responds a second time, and then how he thinks that there is no right answer because no matter what he says, they will jeer him. it's reminding me so much of my own high school experience, because I went to a high school that was half boarding, half day students. I was a day student, but a lot of my classmates were residents on the campus. And, you know, just how they would talk about missing their families and counting down the days until they would go home. But I was going home every day and I was taking for granted that I was at home. I don't know. It was just, I'm really liking this. So yeah, 37 pages in, and I'm feeling connected to an Irish story. I'm having high hopes for the vlog thus far, and I will check in later. Just dropped my daughter off at school, but I wanted to let you know that I finished A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. Finished this one last night. And now that I've had a few hours to settle with it, I think I'm going to say that I liked it, but I didn't love it. It is 270 something pages of text. The book itself goes up to over 300 pages, but there are a lot of notes in the back, little footnotes. And I didn't feel like I needed all of them, but I appreciated the fact that they were there, because there were definitely words and phrases that the author used that I think are more like colloquial expressions. It's English, but it's a reference to something in the church, or a reference to something in Irish community or Irish culture, or just a word from the early 1900s that is not being used, or a phrase that's not being used in that way anymore. So I appreciated the explanations. And I think those footnotes were probably added. The footnotes were probably added. Oh, man, there is some explanation. There's some explanation at the top of at the beginning of the notes. Anyone who attempts to annotate portrait owes a great debt to Chester Anderson for his annotations to the Viking Critical Library edition in 1968. So yeah, I thought that was really helpful, but it also means that if you come out of the text to go look up a reference, then you're almost coming out of the story sometimes. And because it is kind of that stream of consciousness writing, it's not. I'm going to clarify that in a minute. But because it is very present with the, like, following the main character, you almost don't want to leave the story. You're afraid that when you come back after going to check a footnote, that you will have to either reread it to get back into immersing in the text, or you would have lost the rhythm. So sometimes I just let my context clues inform me, and it just kept it moving. So this one is about a young boy named Stephen Dedalus, and he is a teenager in Ireland. His parents have sent him to a religious boarding school, and it starts off being about his interactions with his classmates and just life on the school campus. It is a strict religious order, and it is priests taking corporal punishment and just the desire to save all these boys' souls to the extreme. We follow this main character when he is at school, also in his interactions when he goes home and he's sitting like at dinner and observing how the adults talk about politics, Irish politics, as well as the larger politics of religion and church and state. And then later it becomes more of a social awakening as he is becoming interested in the opposite gender, and he's seeing women who are not suitable for him, but he's very intrigued in following them, and thoughts of women and some of the inappropriateness of his interactions with women just they consume him. And so this book is this man's social and religious and political and sexual awakening. And I'm here for all of that. One of the things that I would say may be a little off-putting to some readers, and may even be the reason that some people put this book down, is that there is a lot of religious thought in the book. Around page 110 to about page 160, it is very deeply religious study. It is related to what this young man is going through. But if you don't agree, or if you are not necessarily looking for religious exposition, it may be a little difficult to absorb. I see why the author put it here, because this is such a big part of this young man's growth and experience that it's almost impossible to have this book without all of that
religious exploration. But I don't know. I don't think that would be for anyone. So I was talking to someone about their experience with this book, whether or not they had read it, and they said they had to read it for high school AP English, advanced placement English. If you're outside of the United States, I'm not familiar with that term. And they said they'd started the book, but they never finished it. And I feel like this is the kind of book where that would be I feel like this is the kind of book where that would probably happen often, where if you weren't forced to continue, you would leave off when the religion and the very serious religious discussion started. So I finished my first book for my mini Irish readathon, and I'm going to pick up something I think a little lighter, a little shorter, maybe a little more contemporary next.
So I'm 20 pages into Foster by Claire Keegan, and so far I'm really liking it. It's a really short book. It's 62 pages, so I'm at page 19 or 20, the end of chapter 2. So we're reading about a young girl, and we're not quite sure about her age or her name, but the opening paragraph introduces her and her father leaving church, mass she calls it, and instead of going home, her father has packed some items and he's taken her to some relative of her mother's somewhere out into the Irish countryside. And as they are driving, there's a lot of silence, punctuated by her maybe pointing out things and her father explaining a little bit. But what he really needs to explain to her, he doesn't, because he's about to take her to leave her at a relative. And there's a lot of unknown in that situation. So the first couple of chapters is them arriving at the home of these relatives of her mother. Her mother is not present. We know that her mother has been left at home. Mother is pregnant, I guess, coming up to her due date. The family has decided that they will send this child to go stay with some relatives while her mother has the baby. So in those two chapters, we see them arriving and a little bit of the handoff, and her father is saying some things that he seems to be hiding their complete financial picture. Earlier in the book, we learned that they have lost some things. The father is somewhat of a gambler, and it doesn't seem like they had a lot of money to start off with. And so now this girl is on this farm, and we're seeing especially the woman at the house, how she's taking care of her and how this child is comparing what is with what was back at home. I'm liking it. I really like Claire Keegan's writing. I feel like she gives us a lot in very tight sentences. So I feel like we're going to get a really complete story in 62 pages, and I'm here for it. So I will let you know when I am done. So I finished reading Foster by Claire Keegan, and this is the quote that I am pulling out of the book that I think marks my response or my feeling about the book. "You don't ever have to say anything," he says. "Always remember that as a thing you need never do. Many's the man lost much just because he missed a perfect opportunity to say nothing." I thought this was a really quiet, short, but forceful study of personhood. It is told in a first-person narrative, and it's about a young, unnamed girl who is taken to live with a couple on a farm when her parents are expecting another child in their home, and so it seemed like they want to just be able to focus on this new baby. Later, we learn that she also has siblings in the home, so it's strange almost that the oldest girl would be sacrificed. Maybe I use that word sacrifice a little bit too harshly, but it seems strange that she's the one who is allowed to leave, when it begs the question, wouldn't this oldest girl be able to help the mother at home? But in any case, her father takes her to spend the summer with a couple named the Kinsellas on a farm. And we see how this girl develops, how she grows, how she blossoms when care is being lavished on her in comparison to her experience when she was back at home. In the beginning of the book, we see her going into this household and how the couple reacts to having this child in their midst. Kind of how their schedules are interrupted, but also how there is continuity. And I just love what the author says about life and about relationships and about disruptions of various kinds. We see people who are dealing with new life, people who are dealing with death, people who've suffered great losses and yet continue. So it just makes me reflect on this quote, like how much the author doesn't say, but hints at and gives the reader an opportunity to explore and kind of make the story their own. So I love this. I don't know if it's quite 5 stars, but I feel like I did get a little bit of the Irish farm experience in this book, as well as what it means to be a child and have political discussions happening in the background and not quite sure what all of those things mean, but also being affected by how the adults deal with these revelations. So I really enjoyed this. And now I'm off to start Twist by Colum McCann, which I think is going to be a little different read because we're reading about an Irish author who is not in Ireland. So I don't know what kind of Irish cultural vibes I'll get from this one, but I'm looking forward to it. Shout out to Penguin Random House for having sent me this one. It just came in yesterday and I am so excited to be starting it off.
Started reading Twist by Colum McCann and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm only in the middle of the second chapter, but so far we're reading about a struggling Irish novelist who goes to South Africa to meet up with another Irishman named John Conway, who he expects to take him aboard one of those ships that goes to fix the underwater cables that facilitate intercontinental communication. So when he goes there and he's trying to court this man, this repairman, to take him aboard the ship and possibly to initiate a repair excursion just for him to do his research, he stumbles upon another story, which is that Conway is involved with Black South African woman, and she's an actress about to launch one of Samuel Beckett's plays, Waiting for Godot, which I didn't think about including any Samuel Beckett work in my discussion of Irish culture, and he's probably one of the most well-known Irish authors. I don't know. I'm thinking, should I finish this now or should I read Waiting for Godot? I'd started reading it a long time ago and I never finished it. It's a short play, but like that is the story of a lot of my reading, a lot of books that I have tried out and just didn't actually get through the work. But I think I'm going to stick with this and then possibly round out the vlog with Waiting for Godot. I don't know, but even if I don't, I'm still already enjoying this because of the literary connections. Hi. You gonna say hi to the friends? Okay, we are at my mother-in-law's house and we need to go inside, so let's go do that and do that and do that.
Hey,
Look, you're about to do some coloring later. Okay, first we're gonna do homework.
So maybe it was just me, but I didn't realize that we still relied on underwater cables to communicate information. I thought it was all in the cloud. This book is exploring the groundwork or the underwater work for these underwater cable communication systems and what it's like when there's a break in the cable, how transmission, how information, how technology, how life is interrupted, and what it means to go and repair those cables. So we are spending some time with these two characters who are both of Irish descent, but they're in South Africa, and eventually they set sail from South Africa to go out into the underwater oceanic depths to go work on this repair. I'm experimenting with a slightly different angle on my phone today, so let me know if you see anything different in this clip than any of the others. I don't know. I'm on page 113 and they're at the point now where they're actually identifying where the cables are, and I like this section. Like this, just reading about this process, as remote as it seems to be, it also feels really important. And I just love the writing. I love what this author says. Like here's this quote that he makes. He says, "All stories are love stories." I like that. I also wanted to go back a few pages ago where the author is making connections between him being on this boat off the coast of Africa, and he's making these connections to the past where he says the old cables followed the colonial routes. Out on these waters, the slave ships had crossed. and he invokes the name Cyrus Field, which when I looked it up, Cyrus Field is one of the people who pioneered the telegraph cable. And he's talking about, of course, the slave ships and the Middle Passage crossing. And I just like what he has to say, like how he's bringing all of these parts of history together with these men on a boat in present time compared to the history. And I'm just really invested in the story. So let me get back to it. So I finished Twist by Colin McCann, and I loved it because I feel like it was saying something really important. And even if I don't have the words to express right now my thoughts and my response about climate fiction and how necessary it is for us to not just be aware, but to be active and proactive about what is happening to our world. Except in this one, I feel like the main character, the protagonist of the novel, it feels like their response is more activist than is warranted. And sometimes maybe that is necessary to shock a body into response. I don't know. But this is the kind of book that is a gateway novel because it makes you want to read all the works that are mentioned. It makes you want to follow all the literary crumbs that are left in the ocean and across the vast expanse of space that these cables connect. The story here is that we're following an Irish writer. So he goes to South Africa to meet a fellow Irishman aboard this boat that goes out into the water to find and repair underwater breaks in these cables that connect continental divides. And while they are supposed to be on this mission that goes and finds and repairs breaks, it also is about the break in communication that could happen when two people are right next to each other. How sometimes we see the divides and the chasms and we're just not able to bridge them. And what are some of the things that keep people separated? Yeah, so this was beautiful. It was literary, and it spoke to the ways that we can try to understand people, but also sometimes some of the limits that we put around other people knowing us and other people reaching us. So I see this book making a really bold statement. It's a new book. It hasn't even officially been published yet. So thank you so much again to the publishers, Penguin Random House, for having sent me this advanced copy. And Colin McCann makes a lot of literary connections here. He is spanning the divide between this book, Twist, and earlier works that have been set in some of the same places or have tackled some of the same subjects. So he mentions Waiting to Godot by Samuel Beckett and Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which is set in a very similar place. And also Coppola's film adaptation of Heart of Darkness, which is Apocalypse Now, and later retellings, I think, of that work. And I could prolong this video and explore some of those things. Like, I feel like right now I want to go back and read Joseph Conrad and I want to read Samuel Beckett, but I'm also torn because I feel like I want to experience Twist as a standalone right now. I want to experience this work and just think about what it means by itself. And later I will come back and read those other works and probably even reread this. So for now, we are going to end the vlog here. Twist by Colin McCann is my 5-star rating for this vlog. And I could see this coming up again in award season and me rereading it and discussing it. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this when you pick it up. This was, I think, 3.5 star, and we're saying Foster by Claire Keegan is about a 4. So I don't quite know if the original intent of this video was realized, but I do feel like I experienced a better understanding of some things Irish. And maybe in picking up something by Samuel Beckett and Joseph Conrad, I will come back and revisit my experience of Ireland through those other works, and maybe we'll continue this exploration for next St. Patrick's Day. Who knows? But for now, I'm gonna say that this vlog was a success, even if it didn't meet the original objective. I enjoyed all of them for different reasons, so maybe the original intent of this video was not quite realized, but this was such a fantastic reading experiment and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you have already read these books or if you want to pick them up because of something I said in this video. Would love to chat with you about that in the comments. And if you're new here, if you haven't already subscribed, would love to have you stay. Subscribe, hit the notification so you'll know when I post future videos. And until we come back for another video, happy reading, happy St. Patrick's Day.